There is a version of you that you have not permitted to exist yet, a version so cold, so calculated, that his absolute stillness would terrify your current self. Average minds believe discipline is just a set of good habits. They are wrong. Real discipline is a silent act of execution against your own inner blood. It is the absolute refusal to negotiate with excuses. Machiavelli did not write for the weak. He wrote for the sovereigns. He understood that to survive a chaotic world, you must transcend predictability. You must cease being a person and become a force of nature. When you become truly disciplined, people do not just respect you. They get nervous around you. They sense a shift, a dark gravity. They see a man who can no longer be manipulated. They see a man who has stopped bargaining with his own mind, and that terrifies them, because a man who cannot be broken by his own thoughts cannot be broken by anything in this world. Look at the masses. They broadcast their intentions, begging for unearned validation before performing a single hour of real labor. They bleed out their focus and empty the pressure valve before the engine even starts. You must do the exact opposite. True power requires the vacuum of silence. When you stop explaining your life, you leave the world guessing. And a guessing world is a powerless world. Disappear for 6 months. No status reports, no announcements, just raw, uninterrupted wait. Let them wonder what you are up to. This silence is your armor. It protects your ultimate intent. When you finally step back into the light, you will not need to state that you have changed. They will feel the density of your presence. They will hear it in the way you choose not to speak. Explanation is the language of the victim. The powerful do not justify their actions. They simply execute them. Shut up and build. Your results will speak, and their voice will be deafening. Most men fail, not because they lack raw talent, but because they care too much. They care about the petty opinions of a world that hasn't even conquered its own mornings. They feel the exact same internal poison, the same exhaustion that makes average people quit. The difference is, the sovereign does not consult his feelings before acting. He treats his emotions like the weather. If it rains, the mission does not change. You do not wait for the sun. You simply put on your armor, and you execute with cold precision. If you only operate when you are motivated, you are entirely predictable. Your rivals, your doubts, they just have to wait until you are tired to defeat you. Every time you seek comfort over the work, you're funding your own decline. But a man who strikes harder when he is bleeding becomes a glitch in the matrix. Stop begging for an easy path. The world is not going to get softer, and the weight is not going to get lighter. You simply need to become a heavier man. The moment you decouple your physical movement from your temporary internal feeling, you cease to be human. You become a machine, and you cannot bargain with a machine. Your brain is a survival mechanism, not a success mechanism. Its only modern job is to keep you soft, safe, and completely unnoticeable. It is designed to make you hesitate. Every single time you hesitate, you are letting your weakness negotiate with your crown. You give the virus of doubt 3 seconds to compromise the entire system. Master the absolute law of the immediate override. When the directive is clear, you count down 3, 2, 1, and you move. You don't think. Thinking before execution is a luxury for the weak. The sovereign acts first and lets the world adapt to the aftermath. Draw the blade before the fear arrives. Look at these walls. They are lined with the stories of men who chose absolute withdrawal over cheap presents. They built empires out of nothing but quiet focus. True focus is forged in the laboratory of shadow. Lock the iron gate, kill the external inputs, kill the noise, and look the reality of the work in the eyes. In that heavy darkness, you will face your boredom, your deepest anxieties, and your demons. Break them in the dark, so you never have to fear them in the light. The world instantly senses a man who does not need their permission to exist. Your independence is the exact gravity that makes them want to follow you. The weak broadcast, the powerful hide. When you stop announcing your next moves, you leave your competition guessing. And a guessing world is a powerless world. Let them think you are failing. Let them think you are gone. Your ultimate response is not a loud notification or a desperate status report. It is the crushing weight of your undeniable results. They will feel the undeniable density of your change. Your presence alone will dictate the rules of the room. The sovereign needs nothing from the masses, and therefore he commands everything. He does not justify his throne. He simply sits on it and commands. The time for negotiation with your own mind is officially over. Shut up, execute, and build in the shadows. Their voice is weak. Your results will be deafening. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. But the masses only see the lion. They never see the fox calculating in the dark. Robert Greene instructs, always say less than necessary. When you open your mouth to explain your plans, you give your rivals the exact coordinates to destroy your empire. The Book of Power states, conceal your intentions. If they do not know what you are aiming at, they cannot prepare a defense. Let them guess while you execute. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The sovereign does not complain about the wall. He uses it to sharpen his blade. Law 16 of power. Use absence to increase respect and honor. If you are always present, always available, you become common. Disappear into your work until your absence becomes loud. Machiavelli knew that a ruler who relies on the shifting motivation of the crowd is doomed. True control belongs to the man who rules his own internal empire with absolute laws. The historical textbooks are clear. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Unless that isolation is a deliberate strategy to build a weapon the world has never seen. When you seek comfort, you surrender your authority to your environment. The sovereign detaches himself from sensory pleasure, finding his ultimate luxury in the successful execution of his purpose. Law 48 orders you to assume formlessness. Like water, you must adapt to the coldest winters without losing your core composition. Let them think you are frozen, then crush them like ice. The laboratory of shadows is where real strategy is built. Lock the heavy iron gate against the modern noise. If you allow the world's trivialities to disturb your focus, you have already negotiated away your crown. Machiavelli observed that men are so simple and so guided by their present needs that a deceiver will always find those who are ready to be deceived. Leave them in their illusions. Your mind is a complex survival mechanism inherited from ancient history. Its primary objective is safety, comfort, and compliance, but safety never built an empire. Let them broadcast their minor victories. Let them collect their cheap validation. While they empty their pressure valves, you build your engine in total silence. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. Any mistakes you make through audacity are easily corrected with more audacity. Never hesitate at the moment of execution. They will sense a gravity shift. They will see a man who has read the ancient texts and integrated their cold realities. A man who cannot be broken by isolation is a dangerous force. Explanation is the dialect of the weak. The sovereign simply executes. When you step back into the arena, your undeniable results will perform the talk for you. Machiavelli's final truth remains unbroken. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And true fear is born from a man's absolute, unshakable self-command. The time for negotiation with your internal weakness is over. Lock the world out, command your mind, and build in the shadows. Their voice is weak. Your results will be deafening. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." The ultimate victory belongs to the strategist who controls the timing. Robert Greene instructs in Law 35, "Master the art of timing. Never seem to be in a hurry. Hurrying betrays a lack of self-control. Always look patient, as if you know that everything will come to you eventually." The books of power dictate that a sovereign must never emotionalize his battlefield. Anger clouds judgment. Pride leads to traps. Keep your face cold, your pulse low, and your intent hidden. Machiavelli observed that observers are easily blinded by appearances. They judge you by what you seem to be, not what you actually are. Use their shallow perceptions to construct your trap. Law 11 of the 48 Laws. Learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed. The more they rely on your strength, the more freedom you possess. The crowd runs on external validation. They are strings pulled by the opinions of others. Cut the strings. Rule yourself with an iron internal mandate. Law 36 states, "Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge." When you acknowledge a petty enemy, you give them power. Choose absolute disregard. Marcus Aurelius warned that luxury makes the spirit soft and compliant. The warrior rules his flesh before he rules his domain. Find your ultimate comfort in unyielding discipline. When the pressure increases, the weak break and expose their plans. But the sovereign absorbs the weight, transforming the darkness of the shadow lab into fuel for his execution. Law 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Let the foolish mistake your silence for weakness until your total momentum collapses their infrastructure. Machiavelli knew that to be respected, a ruler must display grand qualities in all his actions. Avoid common habits. Let every movement carry the density of an empire. Your modern mind will beg for a soft path, an easy escape from the weight. It is an evolutionary trap. Override it immediately. Count down 3, 2, 1, and move. Let them broadcast their potential to feel important. They empty their valves before the race even begins. You must do the opposite. Let them believe you are gone until you arrive with crushing results. Law 28 of power commands, enter action with boldness. Timidity is dangerous. Boldness strikes fear into the hearts of your competitors. Draw the steel blade before the hesitation adapts. They will sense a shift in your atmosphere. They will sense a man who has integrated the cold lessons of history. A man who does not bargain for validation cannot be controlled by anyone. Explanation is the language of the servant. The sovereign simply executes his command. When your results speak, their voice will shatter the silence of the arena. Machiavelli's final mandate stands unbroken. Command your mind, or someone else will command it for you. True authority is born from total, absolute self-mastery. The time for negotiation with your internal weakness is over. Lock the world out, command your mind, and build your kingdom. Their voice is weak. Your results will be deafening. Miyamoto Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings, "There is nothing outside of yourself that will ever enable you to get better, stronger, or smarter. Everything is within. Do not seek fulfillment in the validation of the crowd." Nietzsche observed that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The strategy of power requires absolute self-containment. When you display your emotional vulnerabilities, you invite the wolves to tear down your fortress. Lock your expressions behind an iron gate. Greene writes in the Strategies of War, "Do not fight the old battles." The sovereign adapts instantly to the cold reality of the current arena, discarding outdated concepts and executing with surgical precision. The crowd demands transparency because they want to control your limits. They want to predict your next movement. Deny them. Wrap your operations in the thick darkness of the shadow lab. Your internal weakness will construct excuses. It will beg for a softer compromise. Crush the negotiation. Count down. 3, 2, 1, and execute. To build an empire, you must first master the art of subtraction. Remove the trivial notifications, discard the shallow networks, and look the brute reality of the work in the eyes. Musashi taught, "Do unless it is of use." If a habit does not fund your ultimate ascension, it is a poison that feeds your decline. Cut it away without mercy. When the storm arrives, the common man seeks a shelter to hide his fear. The sovereign becomes the storm itself, absorbing the crushing weight and forcing the environment to adapt to his density. Law 44 of power. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Let your rivals exhaust themselves trying to decipher your absolute silence while you quietly position your final maneuver. Nietzsche warned that he who fights monsters must take care lest he thereby become a monster. The sovereign does not engage in petty disputes. He rises so high that the monsters become irrelevant. The mechanism of delay is an evolutionary trap designed to keep you safe and unnoticeable. Break the pattern. The sovereign acts first and lets the aftermath judge the validity of the action. Let the masses announce their intentions to the world. Let them trade their potential for cheap online applause. While they waste their ammunition, you forge your empire in absolute secrecy. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. If you hesitate, you introduce a virus into the machinery of execution. Draw the cold steel blade before the doubt can negotiate with your crown. They will sense the shift in your gravity. They will recognize a man who has integrated the heavy truths of history and refuses to ask for permission to exist. Independence cannot be bargained with. Explanation is the language of the weak. The sovereign needs no justification. When you step back into the light, the crushing weight of your undeniable results will perform the talk for you. Musashi's final rule stands absolute. Do nothing that is of no use. Command your flesh, dominate your internal landscape, and let your presence dictate the laws of the room. The time for talk is officially over. Lock the world out, command your mind, and build your kingdom in the shadows. Their voice is weak. Your results will be deafening. Baltasar Gracian wrote in The Art of Worldly Wisdom, "Do not state your purpose too clearly. It makes your actions predictable. Keep your moves mysterious so that your adversaries waste their energy decoding your silence." Seneca warned that a man who belongs to everyone belongs to no one. If you allow the shallow demands of society to scatter your attention, you are actively dismantling your own crown. Disappear into your purpose. The architecture of power is built in complete quiet. The sovereign does not seek a committee to confirm his direction. He relies on an iron internal mandate that remains completely unshakable when the world shakes. When your rivals expect you to strike, show them total stillness. When they expect you to retreat, double your execution. A sovereign must become an unreadable glitch in their system. Comfort is the currency with which weak men sell their potential. Every time you delay the brutal work for a soft escape, you are funding your own destruction. Lock the iron gate against your own comfort. Your primitive mind will always negotiate for safety. Do not engage with its cowardice. Count down 3, 2, 1, and strike before the hesitation adapts. Machiavelli observed that people are so easily blinded by their immediate needs that they will always trust a calculated illusion. Let them chase the smoke while you fortify the concrete foundation of your kingdom. Gracian states, "Be exceptional in everything you do, but never explain how you achieved it." The moment you expose the gears of your machinery, you remove the aura of your absolute mastery. When the pressure of the environment reaches its absolute peak, the common man breaks and pleads for salvation, but the sovereign absorbs the weight, utilizing the darkness of the shadow lab to sharpen his execution. Seneca reminded himself that true power is the ability to command your own emotions when everything around you calls for panic. He who commands his own pulse commands the entire room. They broadcast their small movements because they are desperate to look important. Your ultimate weapon is absolute withdrawal. Disappear until the final result collapses their predictions. The mechanism of hesitation is a modern trap designed to keep you compliant and average. Crush it without discussion. The sovereign acts first and lets the world adapt to the aftermath. Gracian warned that once you lose your reputation for absolute reliability, your empire becomes a house of cards. Build your trust in silence, but let your enforcement be public and final. Machiavelli knew that half measures always lead to ruin. If you must strike an enemy, do it so severely that you never have to fear their retaliation. Total execution requires total commitment. The world will try to negotiate with your standards, offering you comfort in exchange for your submission. Reject the trade. True sovereignty means being comfortable with absolute friction. When the weak are cornered, they offer excuses and historical explanations. The master of power offers nothing but the final, unchangeable reality of his accomplishments. The laws of power do not bend for your fatigue or your doubts. They demand that you rule your internal landscape with the same tyranny you use to dominate your field. The period of preparation is officially over. Lock the gates, abandon the noise, and become the supreme authority of your own destiny. The shadows have trained you. Now let the world feel your weight.